The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Oh, good stuff, baby.
Giddy up, y'all.
Welcome to the Failure to Stop podcast channel, where we do 4 shows a week. Police-related news on Mondays, off the cuff. We have Tuesday night Nightshift with True Crime. Then we have our Thursday show with myself, Last Call of the Day, giving you all the information you need so that you don't sound like an asshole to your civilian friends all weekend long. And of course, Friday, our Friday breakdown. Coming the first, we are rebranding all of Failure to Stop, coming out with Failure to Stop 2.0 with lots of things. We're going a lot more full time with the show. We're just going to be heavy hitting really hard coming the first of the new year. Really stepping up our game. We've got some new shows, some new equipment to roll out, some new design work, and lots of surprises. Tonight's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/wolfpack, where right now you can get holiday savings on a bed, which is a gift that just keeps on giving and giving for everyone. They're huge supporters of law enforcement and first responders and veterans, service members, prior and active, but deals that just cannot be beaten. Their beds made in the good old USA, and right now, some things are 50% off. So I can't even, there's so much going on at ghostbed.com with pillows, with cooling sheets, with cooling toppers, and full-on mattresses and adjustable bases. There's just so much. You've got to go to ghostbed.com. Use the promo code WOLFPACK. Go to ghostbed.com/WOLFPACK. And even if you can find the new holiday sales that aren't as good as what the WOLFPACK bonus gives you, you can still drop us in the survey because it's chaos over there. I don't know how they're making money this holidays because it is absolutely insanity. Also, today's show is brought to you by AmmoSeek, ammoseek.com, where you can find all of the ammunition that you could possibly ever want and need for this holiday season. Head over to ammoseek.com and get the free membership when you use that promo code WOLFPACK. But if you're a first responder or veteran, if you're a Second Amendment lover and you need ammo, if you got a new gun, a new GAT for the holidays, head over to ammoseek.com and you'll hear more on that later. Well, right now I'm joined by Andrea Uplate and D. Pitts from the book I Am Pitts, going over a very, very crazy breaking true crime story. And Andrea has what's up with that.
Hey, y'all. Yeah. Welcome, Dexter.
Man,
Really
thank y'all
happy
for
to have
having me.
you.
I appreciate y'all as
Yeah.
always. Very appreciative.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to talk to Dexter in a minute. I'm going to highlight a little bit of something that happened in Kentucky that I'm sure a lot of you heard about. There's not really a whole lot to say about than just the facts. And then we're going to get into talking about mental health. And I kind of teased it earlier that it's going to be a heavy show. It's not as silly as usual, but it's a super important time. Can't tell if we're frozen or not. We're back. So let's just dive on in. In Louisville, Kentucky, recently, a family of 4 was found. Gary Stanton came home to his wife and his 2 daughters, aged 11 and 7, them, and then committed suicide. I'm sorry, real quick. Am I going in and out here?
A little bit. Go ahead and say that last part again. This is the good old Wilmington internet. Now she's completely frozen.
Oh, she's
Yeah,
froze.
we're not known for our technology.
So what? So the
Yeah,
cop. Yeah, I
I'm
missed the
back.
one part. You said
Can
the
you see
cop
me
came
or hear me?
home. I can hear you. Just keep talking. Don't worry about what you look like. Nobody cares.
Yeah. Yep. Nobody. No. Just so Gary Stanton, the husband and father of this family, came home and then turned the gun on himself.
So he came home and killed his family
Can
and
you
then
hear
killed
me?
himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Texter, why don't you? Do
What
you know
in
the
the
story,
world?
Texter?
I do, unfortunately. Only so much. Like I say, nobody really knows all the details behind it. But so Gary, he wasn't a cop, but he worked for the Metro Fleet Services. So he took care of all these city vehicles. He was the tire guy. So I would go. I've seen Gary over the years. Short little black guy, the nicest guy you'd ever met and could ever meet. Every time I go in there to get my tires changed, Gary was always in there smiling. Hey, how you doing, fella? Just super nice, man. Always had a big smile on his face. And so he retired from Metro probably about a couple months back, like maybe 6, 8 months ago, maybe a year. And so I was on scrolling my Facebook feed the other day, and I saw this article about uh individual that kills his entire family, then kills himself. And I'm looking at the pictures. I'm like, yo, is that Gary from the garage? I'm like, it can't be. I hadn't seen him in forever, but I was like, and I confirmed that it was him. So from what I was told, so his son also works in the same area, but he works on the radio equipment at the car garage for the police cars. So apparently his have been trying to contact him, went to the house and discovered the entire family had been shot and killed.
Whoa.
Oh,
And
super
we
heavy,
don't
man.
know. We don't have a motive or anything.
Nobody knows or has any sort of ideal or a motive. No, you like it's always the people we never suspect. And when I saw the picture, I'm like, why would he do that? Like, because he's the nicest guy. You just never know what somebody's going through. I mean, his wife is, I believe she's from Africa, and her father had just died. And I know they were just recently in Africa for their father's funeral, but I don't know. I tell people I don't understand what leads you to kill your own children. A spouse, I would never co-sign it. I've seen where it goes wrong and how people that love each other end up killing each other. I can see it, but to have that happen where you kill your entire family. I mean, we had a firefighter here in Louisville a couple years ago. He did the same thing. He killed his entire family, then set the house on fire, and then shot and killed himself. It was here in Louisville at a neighborhood called Saratoga Woods. Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, these things happen all the time.
Andrea, are you back with us? It looks like your internet's cleared up a little bit. What are the ages? Do you know the ages of these kids?
For Gary's kids, I can't remember off the top, man. They're young, I believe, 11 and 9, maybe, or I can't remember 100. But yeah, man, it's just
such a great age. It's like they're not even assholes yet.
not yet. Great,
Andrea,
great.
you've got kids that are a little bit older, correct?
Maybe
she's not with us at all.
No, she is not with us.
I know that Andrea's got some older kids that but I still don't think and she's texting me right now, she's gonna switch over. So she's got older kids. I don't know. Like everybody says that when your kids turn like teenagers, that sometimes you might want to kill them, but I don't think you fucking physically want to kill them.
No.
I could never imagine for 1 second life without my children, to be honest with you.
I couldn't imagine hurting my family in general, like my wife or my kids, and there's just nothing they could ever do to me to just make me want to hurt them. There's times we argue and, that adults argue, but to take it to that point, that's a rough, man. And like I said, I personally, in my own personal life, have seen the effects of this because of what happened with my mother and father.
Now, yeah, because you're this story probably hits home to you more than it hits others because you have a very unique past with with suicide and things like that. Now, before we get into your story, you said you knew Gary, and you didn't see any signs. I mean, have you guys talked with anybody else at the car garage? Did they ever see any signs of this?
So I'm no longer with the Louisville Metro Police Department. So I haven't been to the garage, but I know people that knew him. Like, but when I say I knew Gary, I didn't like know him. Like we weren't hanging out talking on the phone, But like, yeah. I know he's got a good heart, a good character. Yeah. Like there was nothing I saw in him that made me question him as a person or question his, his mindset. It was just there, and that's what they said in the article, that there were no signs. Nobody suspected anything. So for his son to go find his dad, and his wife and his kids all dead, you got to think that he's gonna have to live with that the rest of his life. And just before the holiday season,
I wonder if something happened in Africa.
So this is what I would say. I don't have any proof. This is just me making a wild guess of something that possibly could have happened, because like I said, I don't know the family history, nothing. The only thing I could think of is maybe they got into it with her being from Africa, her saying, well, you know what? Hey, I'm done. I'm going back to Africa and I'm taking the kids with me. And the only thing I can imagine him saying, well, you're not doing that. If if you leave, none of y'all are leaving. None of us are leaving. So that's the only thing I can think of. Like I said, that's just a wild guess.
Or, like there's all this, there's this is a wazoo theory here, but there's like some crazy bugs and stuff in Africa. And this sounds crazy. Stick with me here, but I had a friend who got bit by a tick, and he didn't get Lyme disease, but he got a different disease from a tick, where instantly he hated all foods. Now this dude was like pushing 400 pounds. He's one of the largest dudes I know. And he went from like being a barbecue smoker. He's a black guy. So he had this stereotypical smokes everything, cooks everything out on the grill, barbecues everything all the time.
I just bought a smoker. I'm really offended.
Yeah, it's a black thing, dude. A lot of black people love to grill a lot more. It's like all black people and then like 40-year-old men and up. It's like when a dude hits 40, he's got to get a smoker.
Got to get a smoker, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Well, black people have been doing that like fucking since they were like 16. But he went from just eating all sorts of meats and all sorts of shit to only being able to eat basically fruit and like some cheese. Wow. And he ends up losing like tons and tons of weight. He eventually died actually at a very early age. I think he died at like 38. But I wonder if something happens like where you get bit by some kind of weird bug over in Africa and you like fucking, it makes you go crazy or snap. I know Joe Rogan's talked about some things about like different like like the thing that causes cat people to become cat people.
What causes cat people to become cat people?
It's like some kind of parasite that like lodges inside of, and it's caused by like coming in contact, I think, with cat urine at some point or something. But basically, like there can be a parasite that gets inside of you, and it makes you like obsessed with like cats and cats' odors. Greg, according to Greg in the chats, he looks like he might suffer from that because he's already made several mentions of his cat in here. He said, I would never kill a cat. I would kill my kids, but I would never kill my cat, I think is what his exact words were. Quote me on that. I'm just kidding. That's not what he said. But are you back, Andre? Whenever you're back, you just open up those luscious red lips and just let them sing. But we
missed you.
We do miss you, but you have to unmute yourself first. Teresa K in the chat says Eric is my external trigger. We are a live show, so we do have people in the chat. Now, being that he killed his whole family and then he took his own life, man, it just sounds like it's like, what did he know? Like, what did he know about Hillary Clinton?
He was in on that FTX scheme, bro.
It's like one of those things where if I was a detective, I wouldn't be able to. You would have to like legit. I'd have to find all the evidence that he killed himself before I rule this homicide. Because for me, it's unfathomable that you could kill your children, especially at 9 and 11, and then take your own life.
Well, but that's the
crazy to me.
But that's the crux of mental health, man. And it's until it's too late, nobody knows. I mean, we had a lady here in Indiana who freaking killed her kid and stuffed them in a freaking suitcase. And she was legit crazy. She was what we call here CIT. Man, she was all the way off a rocker, man.
Yeah.
Killed him, put him in a suitcase and threw him out in the woods.
That's crazy, man.
I mean, Casey Anthony.
Greg says in the chats real quick, and I won't be hitting the chats too much tonight. because I know this is an important show. But Greg says Tansy is completely incorrect. Completely incorrect is an exaggeration. I'm never completely incorrect, only mildly incorrect. It's toxoplasmosis that is a parasite from cats, but it causes people to be more reckless, which I guess could qualify as getting a bunch of cats. So right, moderately wrong, not completely wrong, Greg. Only moderately wrong. Words matter.
Notice,
Words
I don't have any
fucking
pets, so
matter.
so the Pitts family in the clear.
So if you will, go ahead and start. I want to know your story. Like obviously mental health. You've went through some mental health crises. I would love to hear your whole story, your story for the holiday. Like even though people have heard your story before on this show, I think it's an important story that could be heard several times. But I'm glad that Andrea brought you on because it's a very important message.
Yeah. So for me, I've had my struggles in the past with mental health stuff, from PTSD and depression from being in Iraq and in the military, and just from some issues growing up as a child, But I never knew that my mother was suffering from mental health issues and mental health problems. That was never the thing, because most of us look at our moms and we see our moms as super women. Moms can do it all, and moms are there for you in your worst moments, but we just never realized that moms have issues too. Moms are humans. And for me, it all changed on August 29th, 2010, man. I was a brand new rookie police officer. I had just got out of my first phase of FTO training, and I was working at the Iron Man detail here in Louisville. And I remember my phone rang. I picked up my phone while I'm on this detail, and somebody says, "Is this Officer Dexter Pitts?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they said, "Hey, you need to get to University of Louisville Hospital. Your mother's been shot." And I'm like, "Man, who quit playing on my phone?" And I remember I hung up the phone. And so, I'm gonna go back to, doing my thing. And the phone rings again a few minutes later. And it's like, "Officer Pitts, this is not a joke." I'm like, "Listen, this is an absolute joke. This is not funny." So I hang up the phone again. Well, when that person called back the third time,
Now, did you think it was legit a joke, or were you
I legit thought it was a joke.
Kind of just like in denial, or were you like?
I literally thought it was a joke. Like my mom.
So you had no
Superwoman.
lump in your throat or no flutter in your heart. You were just like,
bro.
"Fuck you, that's a dirty joke."
Nothing, man. Me and my mom were supposed to go and hang out after I got off, bro. So they were in my mind. It was not fathomable that this was real. It's clearly somebody's trying to prank me, and I'm like, "This is a horrible prank."
Yeah.
So he calls back a third time, and I'm like, "Look, man, stop playing. Like, sir, this is not a joke. Your mother has been shot, and she has been airlifted to University of Louisville Hospital." And that third time when I knew it was real. So my buddy puts me in. I get in his police car in the passenger seat. We drive down the road to University of Louisville Hospital, man. He's driving like a NASCAR driver. I mean, you can smell the brakes burning. I mean, we're blowing traffic lights with the lights and sirens. And we get to the hospital, and I'm like, "Where's Idella Pitts? Where's my mother?" And they take me to the ER, to the room that she's in. And the first thing I see when I go in there, man, she's got these brown paper bags on her hands. And I'm like, "The heck is going on?" And she's laying there down in the bed, and her head's covered in gauze, and it's stained crimson red from the blood. And I'm just like, "The hell is going on? Like, this isn't supposed to happen to her. This isn't supposed to happen to me." And you go from, in that moment, you go from being a rookie cop, to where I'm Superman. I'm not the one that needs help and needs saving. I save everybody, to I'm the one that needs help, and my mother needs help, and I need somebody to save me and her, because this wasn't supposed to be our life. And I just remember looking at her, like, trying to figure out, who did this to you? Who did this to you? Like, there's no way that my mother would shoot and kill herself. But so I'm there for hours. Excuse me. So as I'm there, they tell me that there's been no brain activity for hours, and she's on life support. And at 26 years old, they ask me, "What do you want to do?" And I remember my mom, now that, because I didn't realize that there were signs. I never realized I didn't know. But we would have these conversations months before, and she would say, "Man, if anything ever happened to me, just know that there's enough money for you and your sister." Or, "Man, if anything ever happened to me, baby, just don't keep me hanging around here. Just let me go." And I would be like, "Why are we having these conversations? You're not going nowhere, Mom. You're going to live forever." And the next thing you know, I'm 26 in my police officer uniform at my mother's bedside. And I had to make the hardest decision in my life while on duty to take my mom off life support because I remember that's what she always said to me and always told me. And then I remember sitting in there, and I remember the nurse came in there and told me an hour later, she's gone, sweetie. And man, my whole world just collapsed and shrunk, man. And then I remember I told them I wanted to see her before I left. And they took me to the back where her body was being kept. And it was so weird, man. It was like this room, it was a pitch black room, but there's just one light, and her body's laying up under this light, under a sheet. And they go in there, and she was like, man, they're like, it's ugly. You don't want to see it. I'm like, no, I got to see it, man. I have to see it. And I remember they pulled back the sheet, and I looked at her, and I could see where the bullet entered her temple and exited through her eye. And I just forced myself to look, man. I forced myself to look. And in my mind, I'm just trying to figure out, like, somebody's going to pay. Who did this? And I remember the social worker came in and talked to me and said, sir, has your mother ever had any suicidal thoughts or ideations? I got really offended. Like, no, never. She would never do that. And so literally I start talking to the police department, and they tell me, hey, there was an incident here at your house. And my mom and dad have been married for 28 years. Unbeknownst to me, I did not know that my mom and dad, that there was abuse in the relationship, in the marriage. My dad's very controlling, very egotistical, narcissistic guy, So they start telling me that there was this incident at the house, and that my father showed up to the police station covered in blood, and his skin was peeling off of him because there had been hot water thrown on him. And so they go to the house, and they find my mother in the passenger seat of her car in the garage, or excuse me, the driver's seat of her car in the garage, with the car running, the garage door down, and she's shot. And so I guess, so, my family to this day still believes that my father killed my mother, but the GSR, the gunshot residue test, showed that there was the gun residue on my mom's hands from her shooting herself. But from what we gathered from the investigation, that my dad, even though they were divorced, my dad was still coming over all the time and messing with my mother and trying to control her every day. She even left suicide letters. And she was saying in the letters how, he controls me, everything I do, the type of underwear I wear, who I can talk to, where I can go, what I can do, what I can say. And she was just saying that she was tired of it. And she said in the letters that he told her that nobody's ever going to believe you if you tell, if you ever said anything about how I treat you, nobody ever believed me, because my dad's big in the church. Like, he's a deacon and all this, so people like, nobody's ever going to believe, Idela's, husband did that to her. So, man, I start reading the suicide letters, and there's one letter in there that really hurt me, because me and my mom, before this incident, we had a falling out after I got married to this other girl that my mom did not like. And now I know why, and my mom told me that things were going to work out between me and her, this girl. And my mom, I had to make a choice between, my wife, my new wife, or my mom. And because I just couldn't have the two in my life at the time, because it wasn't working. So I chose my wife, and because I did that, me and my mom did not talk for almost a year. But just before this incident, me and my mom started talking again and patching up and healing our relationship. And I remember the day before going on this detail, I went to Walmart to buy me a cooler for some snacks so that I could have some snacks for my detail, man. And I was on the phone with my mom, like, hey, I'm gonna come see you tomorrow because it's been a long time. So I was turning into my neighborhood, and I was like, okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. And I hang up the phone. Man, she calls me right back and says, hey, you didn't say you love me, baby. I'm like, I'm sorry, mama. I love you. She says, I love you too. And those were our last words together on this earth, man. So that's where
she kind of knew that maybe
Yeah.
that was going to be the last conversation.
Yeah. She had to have known, man. And it was just so unsurreal and so deep, man. I mean, my whole family fell apart after that. At that time, I found out my wife at the time that my mom warned me about was cheating on me. Learned that a couple months later. My sister ran off with my mom's ashes and took all the life insurance money. I ain't talked to my sister in like 12, 13 years, bro. It's ridiculous, man.
And I know this story gets a lot heavier. And I know that people think that this is the end of the story, but it's not. It's only the beginning of the story. The story is going to get a little bit wilder. It's a story that I'm familiar with. Of course, I've read your book. And I encourage everybody to go read the book, I Am Pitts. But right now, I got to do a little commercial break before we get into the second half of this, which is, the even crazier half of this story. If you want to support our show, especially support us going into the New Year's, right now we could really use a good Christmas present. The Christmas present that you, the Wolfpack, can give us is not what Lumber Chef, who is a fan of the Wolfpack and is a subscriber to our YouTube channel and a subscriber to our Discord. But he sent us some Jamaican jerk seasonings. He sent us some wine, some of his favorite pancake mix. He sent us salt and pepper, smoked pepper, some cool candles. He sent us a bunch of great stuff, and we're so freaking thankful for that. But you don't have to be a Lumber Chef and go through all that. What you could simply do for this holiday season is just leave us a rating and review on iTunes or Spotify, wherever you listen, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to be a paid member, we do have room for more paid members in our Discord. And of course, all those things are coming out revamped in 2023. So you're really not going to want to miss out on some of the more private shows that we're going to be doing, as well as all the better public shows that we're going to be doing. Also, from now until the 1st, we will be having our swag shop open, but coming the 1st, we're going to close the swag shop until we work out some different deals with a different company and things like that. But we're really going to be focused more on content and providing more content than we are on managing a swag shop. It's just a little bit much for us at a very young podcast age. So if you want to support us right now, you can go and buy the swag on our swag shop. But more importantly, give us a rating and review and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Again, I did say today's show was brought to you by ammoseek.com. If you're anything like me, you're sick and tired of searching for ammo. And when you find it, the prices are so jacked up through the roof that you don't want to buy it anyway. That's why we are proud to partner up with AmmoSeek. AmmoSeek is an incredibly helpful comparison shopping search engine for in-stock ammo, guns, mags, and reloading supplies. They update their results in near real time, so if you see it on AmmoSeek, it's available at the listed price. Search by caliber, cost per round, grain weight, manufacturer, you name it. AmmoSeek is totally free to use, and you can even save past searches and set price alerts so that you're notified when your favorite product that you desire price shows up. If you're looking for great deals on in-stock ammo from over 260 online retailers that will ship right to your door, you can do it all at ammoseek.com. Find it at AmmoSeek. Firearms, reloading components at the best prices on the web at ammoseek.com. And do me a favor, when you register for your free account, tell them the Wolfpack sent you. That's ammoseek.com. ammoseek.com. Also, it's that time of the year that we're all giving those gifts. GhostBed. GhostBed.com/Wolfpack. It's the bed that is made in the good old USA. And a good night's sleep is what is the kickoff to good mental health. You can't start working on your mental health if you're not first working on sleep and your diet. GhostBed can help you out with both of those, because if you get a good night rest, then you're more motivated to get up and get physically fit. Start the new year off right with a GhostBed. Right now, GhostBed is offering insane deals that I'm not even going to go through. You just have to go to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack and check out everything that they've got going on. And we love them. They've been with us since day one. They're huge supporters of the first responder family. Everybody we know has a GhostBed. Mike the cop, underpaid producer, all the guys at Drinking Pros, all the cops in my neighborhood. Everybody I know is now sleeping on GhostBed thanks to this website. Thanks to this podcast. So fix your mental health. Fix your, give a gift that just keeps on giving. It's good for you. It's good for him. Head over to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. And it looks like we've just lost Andrea tonight, and I apologize for that. Wasn't in the cards, but she said she
the show
might be
goes
back.
on.
Let's see it. Hold on. Are you back? Are you back for the second half of this episode?
Yeah, there she is.
She's not. She's
Frozen.
not back.
Oh, yep.
She's frozen. She's kind of not frozen.
See the face.
I am. I'm here.
Oh, there it is. Awesome.
She was crying the whole first
If it
half. That's why.
Makes any difference, we do have a little bit of a lag, so we might speak. Well, I actually kind of was, but I could hear the whole story. So I definitely heard all of your story, Dexter. The only thing I didn't hear was the recap of the Kentucky story, which is fine because I know that story. So thank you very much for sharing, Dexter. And I have done whatever I can to change my mic and work on my internet and short of poll. This is all I got for tonight. But I'm back.
Happens.
Let's keep going.
The good news is
Show goes
Photoshop
on.
2.0, when it rolls out, everybody's got new equipment for the new year. So everybody should be rocking off of the same equipment. We'll see. Fingers crossed. We're going to try to make that happen. And so we'll all be sounding the same and looking good when we roll out Feather Stop 2.0 coming January 1. So Dexter, go on with the second part of this story. So just brief recap. You become a new cop. I mean, this is after you've already sustained a horrific injury in Iraq.
Yeah.
You didn't even mention that part.
No.
Where you get half your arm blown off. And then you survive that and you come back, you become a police officer in Louisville, and now you're a rookie cop and your mom has committed suicide. You found out that your dad is an abuser and you're now not getting along with your sister because in this turmoil, everybody goes crazy.
Yes.
I mean,
yeah, and that just goes crazy. But I mean, not that I would say people's true character really comes to the surface and shines. Because it was so weird because the fact that she took all this stuff from me. And I remember her saying one time, if you want anything from me, you're going to do what I tell you to do first. And I was like, bitch, please. Like we were raised by the same mama. We was both raised by Della Pistons. She ain't tell me to sell out to nobody. So
that's how
I
I talked to Andrea. She's like, you want to have a good show, you'll do what you tell me. I'm like, bitch, please.
But for me, man, I remember I went to go pick up my mom's ashes and my sister got up early, went to the funeral home, took the ashes and skipped town, bro. So I don't back to Alabama. I don't have anything from my mother to show for anything.
What did she do with the ashes? She keep them in her urn?
I don't know what the hell she did. Don't know what she did, man. She took all the pictures, my childhood pictures, but I didn't have anything left for my mother. So, and then like I said, as well, I'm learning that my wife at the time is cheating on me. And then I start spiraling out of control. My PTSD, I've always been struggling with it, but I was never in check. And I'm at work and I start becoming an unsafe officer. Just kind of, I was a wild child, man. I remember I had an accidental discharge with a shotgun on a scene. Yes. Yes. Whoa, so yes, I put it in the book, man. I was like, I'm not going to pull any punches. So we get a call that there's this kid that's in a closet and hiding on Narragansett Drive. He says, my father just shot and killed my mother. And I was only off for like maybe 2 weeks after my mom's suicide. Now I went straight back to work.
You know what's crazy is like if an officer shoots somebody, he's off for like 6 or 7 fucking months.
Yeah.
But if his mother dies,
they told me to take off, but I was like, nah, I'm going to keep working, bro. I'm going to keep working. And so, man, we get this call. And as I'm pulling up to the house, I'm thinking about this kid. He just saw his mother shot and killed. And I'm 2 weeks off of my mom's suicide. And I get out the car. I put a round in the shotgun chamber. And I'm walking up to the house ready for whatever. And I'm Army infantry, bro. I know trigger discipline. I know how to handle a weapon. Put my finger on the trigger for some odd reason. And when I was walking up to the house and tripped, boom, blasted a shell off into the ground, bro. And that, not just that, it got worse, man. There was also an incident where we arrested this guy and I took this guy to the jail and I didn't search him. I just put him in the car and we're at the jail and the corrections getting ready to take him in. They search him and they pull out a freaking ice pick out this dude's pocket. My trainer's like, hell, bro. Like, did you not search this guy? I'm like, I don't know. Like, who cares? I don't know. Who cares, man? No big deal. Yeah. And then it just started getting worse, man. And I started spiraling so bad out of the point to where I was ready to commit suicide because literally I had built this life that was this false life because I was married to a pastor's daughter who's very, very, very prominent. So I put on this show all the time because, I'm Dexter, I'm a veteran, I'm a cop, and I got all my shit together, and I'm this and that. And I lived this perfect life. And I was putting on this show and putting on this fake face every day, but dying on the inside. And so when I started going through the divorce and lost everything over, it was like a snap of fingers. I lost everything, man. All the people that were in my life were gone. And that's when I was going to try to kill myself. And that's how my book opens up. Actually, me sitting in the FOP parking lot with my Glock in my lap. And I put the Glock to my head. And I knew if I just pulled the trigger, a couple pounds of pressure, it would be over. But I didn't have the courage to do it. I was too scared to do it. But for me, like I said, I was in the right profession to have somebody kill me. So I started getting on these traffic stops, making ghost stops, stopping cars, not calling out on people, disrespecting people, hoping I would push them to the edge. And every car I stopped, I hoped that there was a felon in that car with a gun that would get up out of his seat, put some rounds in me and in my misery. Like I said, he would be a monster to everybody that guy killed Dexter. He killed Dexter, but he was going to be my hero because I didn't want to live, man. And what it took for me was it was a retired, a former Marine, my sergeant with one leg, Kevin Trees, reached out to me and he knew something was wrong because he was like, bro, you're having accidental discharges, not searching people. What all these ghost stops, you're being unsafe. I was clearing houses by myself on burglar alarms. Like, you don't do that.
Right.
And I was, and he saw it, man. And my chain of command came to me and they were like, we don't know what's wrong with you, man, but listen, you got a lot of shit going on. 30 days, no questions asked. Take your time and go deal with your shit.
Yeah.
And they said, we'll be here when you get back. So I take care of myself and I come back and I'm doing better. And no shit, no lie. My first call out the gate when I come back is a suicide. This mother shoots and kills herself in her bathroom, and her entire family's there. In the same bullet wound like my mother. And I just look at this lady laying on the ground. I remember walking into the hallway. The family's on the couch crying. I see her legs sticking out from the bathroom. And I'm just like, man, I walk up and I see the gun in her hand and the blood and the bullet wound. I'm just like, man, Jesus. And my partner, who was freaking Beth, freaking awesome, she was like, Dex, get out of here right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so man, it took some time. It took so much time for me to build myself back up to who I am today. I saw somebody put in the chat, everybody's got these perfect lives they're living. So I tell people, man, everything you see on social media is not real. All these perfect lives and people with these perfect bodies and all this perfect income, and none of that stuff's real, man. We are all people. We are all humans. There is a battle that we are all fighting. Some of us are just more honest about it, and some of us lie about it a lot more than others. And I refuse to lie, get on social media and just lie and just be this picture perfect guy that has got wife and kids and he just lives this great life. He goes to church and loves the Lord. Like, no, I struggle. I still struggle. This time last year, I was in a horrible depression. Actually, today, I just had my first appointment at the vet center here in Louisville, Kentucky, man, to go keep being seen for mental health problems, just because it is so crucial nowadays that we do that, man. There's so much pulling for our attention, and there's just so much coming into our minds every day. We're just being pulled in so many different directions, man. Just being bombarded with so much information and and we lose track of taking care of ourselves.
I always say people talk about, I got pulled over by a cop and he was this to me, or he was that, or I ran this cop and he was an asshole. And I always tell people, you don't know what that cop's going through. And oftentimes cops are going through more than any civilian ever goes through. I remember one night in particular where, I dealt with a shooting right at the beginning of the night. And then just a horrific stabbing where a man and his daughter, he got a hotel room for his daughter for her birthday. He ends up getting too drunk, picks a fight with some Hispanics that are staying at the hotel, and they carve him up. They pin him down, they hold him down, and they carve all sorts of shit into his back with his beer bottle. I've never seen so much blood in my life. I leave that scene, like I had to give the daughter a ride back to the mom's house. The daughter was probably like 12 or 13. She's just super traumatized that her dad just got carved up by a bunch of illegal immigrants. And she had a lot to say about that. But I leave that scene, and the first car, a car pulls out in front of me after running a stop sign, and it has it's a stolen vehicle. And I end up lighting it up, and it crashes into a house, and a girl gets out of it after it wrecked into the house. A woman crawls out the window. She takes off running, and I tackle her. And she's pregnant, and we got to go to the hospital because now she's hurt and she's pregnant. Well, that's a lot of paperwork in one night. How do you think I acted the next day in public? When you go home and you process, holy shit, dude, I worked, a stabbing or a shooting at the beginning of the night. Then a guy got fucking held down and carved up with broken beer bottles and not in front of, but like his 13-year-old daughter had to run away while her dad's getting carved to pieces. And then I get a stolen car with a pregnant woman who stole the car, and you're just supposed to be fine the next day. Normal. You're supposed to just be, hi, ma'am, license and registration. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to be apprehensive or acting scared, or you can't be overly aggressive. Like, you've got to turn it on and you got to be like a Chick-fil-A person 24/7, I mean, it's easy to be Chick-fil-A service when you work at fucking Chick-fil-A. It's not easy to do Chick-fil-A service when you work in, despite what internal affairs thinks, despite what your chain of command thinks, it's nearly impossible to be a Chick-fil-A representative as a police officer every single day.
Not possible. We talked about this earlier, you and I, how I told Eric, I'm no longer with the Metro Police Department, but I'm still in Louisville, but at a smaller department. And it's a lot slower pace, a lot less craziness going on. And I didn't realize until now how stressed out I was and how tired I was, because I've always been a city cop. I've always been in the hood or downtown, one of the two, no in betweens. That's all I've ever known is chaos. And now that the chaos is gone, and I'm realizing, like, man, my life is like so much better now. My stress levels are coming down. It sucks being on night shift now. Right. So, but I mean, dude, and like we were saying, like you said, man, cops that live this day in and day out for 20 plus years, that's going to cause trauma. And then you're just going to keep stacking more trauma on top of that trauma and more trauma on top of that trauma. And you never deal with your shit, but you're a tough guy. But know what happens to all the tough guys when they commit suicide? Everybody always asks, what happened? Why would he do that? He was such a badass. Because he's a human, bro. He's a human. We can only hide shit for so long.
Yeah, I remember being a young cop and there being an officer that was super influential in my life and just an amazing cop. And I put him in my book when my book comes out. And I won't say who it was, but I think you'll get a good idea of who he was. But he's God's gift to the profession. And I think all the things that I always wanted out of any leader in the military and any leader in that I ever wanted, like you have an ideal, you have this ideology of what a leader is supposed to be, but you never find it, right? Like never. Leadership, like your higher up leadership they're always pieces of shit. Like that's why I have zero respect for anybody over the rank of captain, because I really feel like until we met Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, I didn't think perfect leadership existed. But this is that guy that exemplified all the things I thought a leader should be. And one day he called me, man, and he was like, you got a minute to meet for coffee? And I said, sure. And we were talking on the phone. He was in a different car. I was in my own car. He was in his own car, but we were on the phone waiting to get there. And like, he was like in tears on the phone. He was just like, dude, I'm fucking done. I don't know what the fuck to do, man. Yeah. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, man, I don't know. Like, I can't keep going on. I can't keep, like, I have no relationship with my wife. I have no relationship with my children. I saw this, and this. I flipped my fucking car. This happened this week. And he's like, dude, I don't know what to do now. And I'm stuck. And I was like, yeah, well, like, I think the first thing is like, let's get coffee and then come up with some kind of a plan. And I don't know if he was suicidal as much as he was just about to quit being a cop. I don't know. But like seeing that dude broken and me being such a young cop, like I was like, dude, he didn't have like a senior cop that he could go to. Like, this is like probably one of the more well-known human beings in the state of North Carolina when it comes to law enforcement. And he chose to call me and have this conversation with me. And I was just super confused. But, it taught me a lesson that it doesn't matter how badass you are, how hard of a motherfucker you are, or how badass your career is and how you're good. This guy doesn't have Instagram. This dude isn't cloutful. This dude isn't a, hey, look at me guy. I mean, this dude's in the shadows doing the Lord's work day in and day out. And at some point, 15 years in, this dude's like, I'm fucking broken, dude. I'm fucking broken and I don't know what the fuck to do. And lucky for me in my career, I never reached that point in 8 years to where I was broken. I mean, ish. And I talk about it a little bit in my book, but it's a scary place to be, that I don't know what the fuck to do.
Go ahead, Dre.
Go ahead, Drizzy. I wanted to touch, if I could, a little bit. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
You'll hear me? Okay. So in just looking at some numbers, I saw Jonathan mention some numbers about firefighters specifically in the chats a minute ago. And I've spent the past while kind of knowing that this show was coming up, looking at kind of just different demographics. And so I just kind of wanted to touch on what certain professions that are most likely to have deaths caused by suicide, certain times of year. It may surprise you. It may not be what you think it is. That's the highest time of year for suicides. And there's a psychology behind that, actually. And then even our children, we know that our children and adolescents have such an increase in anxiety and depressive disorders currently in the past few years, just skyrocketing. And I'd like to just touch a little bit on why we think that is, because these kinds of things affect everybody. I know that we gear everything toward first responders, and that's incredibly important, but there's mental health knows no bounds, right? So
Exactly.
I just wanted to
Well, firefighters want to commit
so we
suicide because they're
have
not cops,
data from the
and they'll never be cops. So that's why
we
they
have data from the
wanted
U.S.
to
Department of Justice from
state troopers too, because nobody
2017
likes
to
them.
2019 saying okay. From 2017 to 2019 saying that officers killed by suicide surpassed the deaths caused by accidental and felonious events. So them committing suicide outweighed or overreached anything that would have happened in the job. So this was interesting and something to think about when you think about police officers or any first responders. I would be interested to see how this also affects dispatchers, but they don't expound on that in this article. But seeing suicidal attempt on duty has been shown to increase the risk of subsequent suicidal ideation of those first responders that are involved. I thought that was very interesting. The top 3 professions that are listed to be the top 3 in terms of death by suicide numbers are doctors. Some of these websites, just be careful to know that it's not necessarily specifically doctors. Sometimes they encompass all of healthcare. These studies do different things. So we all know that statistics, numbers, you can make them do whatever. And doctors, dentists, and then police officer, kind of right there in that rank.
Wait, did you
Used
say
to in
dentist?
America,
Dentist?
at
Dentist are
least when
number
I was
2?
in college. Dentist. Well, so and the reason, think about this. The reason is it's not it's because you've got patient accountability. It sounds silly, but you have people in your ear all the time. But generally speaking, a lot of these higher financially seated professions come with sometimes overreach of life. I mean, you get into financial burdens, and financial burdens ultimately are a lot of times what causes suicide. And so that's what I was going to touch on, is that
Oh, because you're saying like a dentist
when
thinks
I
he's
went to
a
college,
doctor,
just
so he's spending doctor money, but he's not really a doctor. He's a dentist, and then he gets into financial
no,
trouble and he kills
Champagne
himself.
taste on a
that's
Kool-Aid
not what
budget,
I'm
brother.
saying.
Oh, I thought that's what you were saying.
Yes. Yes, my children have learned how to do this Christmas. But no, so actually, so that's what I was gonna touch on. When I went to college and, at that time, like 4 years ago, in America, the leading cause of suicide was actually at the time, or the leading demographic was white males aged like 40 to 60, and generally speaking, it was due to financial feeling embarrassment, feeling like they can't take care of their families and whatnot. This is changing. The tides are turning. That is not the largest demographic any longer. But that, excuse me, that does touch on the doctor dentist portion. But like I said, police officers were number 3 in that ranking. So on numbers, police and firefighters die by suicide more often than in the line of duty. In 2020, specifically, 116 police officers died by suicide, and 113 in the line of duty. We can get into whether or not there's no mental health conditions. That's where things get a little, things are not fully reported. Harken on that and it, but we that from 2016, suicide rates increased by 30%. Men do commit suicide more often than women, like triple the times that women. The rate of women committing suicide trajectory that is entirely different. Like, it is increasing very quickly. So, and I'm just going to go through a couple of boring numbers again, and then we can talk on some other things.
They want women equality. So they're trying to catch up to them, and they're like, well, we can kill ourselves at the same rate as men does. We can have the same rate of pay in playing basketball. We can also kill ourselves at the same rate as men can, because women's rights. Go women.
Waiting for the delay for Andre to respond.
Suicide is not.
I don't like either one of you.
You like Brittany Griner, I bet, don't you?
I was waiting on that one. I knew that was coming.
Did you guys see the meme with the pruny finger that looked like it was in the water?
Yes.
So
Oh my
Griner on her
god.
first day back, and then she tweeted, "Please stop tagging me in this." Oh, dude, I was like, "Yeah, baby."
Oh.
Wow, man. You think she ever goes back to play Russia? Like, what if there's an Olympics and she's in the WNBA, and for like the gold medal, it's USA versus Russia? Like, still nobody would watch it, but like it might make a cool movie 30 years down the road when people kind
of like the Miracle on Ice movie, the hockey movie.
Yeah.
I did not get my internet back to talk about Brittany Griner.
All right.
I scaled a
Let's talk about how
telephone
men-
pole
You're right,
to a
you're
good
right,
wire
you're right.
to not talk
We'll just
about.
talk. We'll just talk about how men kill themselves better than women do.
Score.
They do. The rates of depression
So dark.
have increased in 2005 and 2017 among adolescents. Eric Tansey, I'm going to mute you. I'm going to figure out how to do it.
I haven't said shit.
So adolescents age 12 to 7. There's a delay. You can zip
It's a
it.
delay. It's a,
'cause
That's
it's
not
no
my
delay.
fucking problem.
Between 2005 and 2017, seriously though, adolescents aged 12 to 17 had depressive rates that increased 52%. 52%. That's huge.
Social media.
And these depression rates increased 63%. Yep. Between 2009 and 2017 in adults 18 to 25. And I wholeheartedly agree that that's a huge part of it, Dexter. We know that it's estimated, these again are all very gray numbers, that about 70% of children and adolescents with depressive disorders do not receive treatment. So that's the children portion of it. We talked about the professional aspect of it. And then, of course, we can talk about veterans, increased suicide rate overall, substantially more so with those that experienced TBI or a traumatic brain injury. I'm sure that makes sense. But those who experienced, they actually have it broken down into those who experienced mild TBI died at 3 times the general rate by suicide, while those deemed to have had moderate to severe brain injury are 5 times as likely to die by suicide.
Then, like, how many boxers kill themselves? How many fucking football?
What time
players
of the
kill
year
themselves?
is? Yeah, well, CTE.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah,
same.
but,
That's
like,
the
I
same
don't feel like
idea
it's a lot.
as
Aaron
TBI.
Hernandez.
Yeah, that's like one, dude.
No, but listen, because that's here. Listen, why? Because TBI that occurs from events sustained in military or in other, so in close quarters battle, in with these concussive grenades, right? When all these things that are rattling your brain around, that causes damage to your brain much more immediately. Just it doesn't take long to develop. With CTE that we see in the football players and the boxers and fighters, for it's a long span of time of these concussive injuries. And so that's when that starts to develop, and that the brain and the things that can make them be rageful or not super rational. And then oftentimes will allow them to either harm someone else or subsequently commit suicide. But that's why it doesn't happen immediately. So you're not going to see those numbers right now. We're seeing it sprinkled, like it's happening. We don't see it in the same rate. It's also not going to be the same rate because when you compare that to first responders or let's say veterans that have those TBI, those injuries, those traumatic brain injuries, it's the TBI coupled with the trauma that they've experienced, that they've seen, in the circumstances they've been in. So I think that's why you see those numbers immediately than in the boxers and the football players. But
I think the war on terror is just
we
ending
started to
too,
touch
so
on
we
what
still
time of
got
the
a
year
lot of
is
way
most
to catch
prevalent.
up.
I saw
Sorry, she has a delay, so whenever you
Yeah.
say it,
Absolutely.
she's not going to hear it for
Absolutely.
like 5 seconds.
And
Say it again.
Oh, so the war on terror is really just ending.
I still heard it.
So, oh, okay.
Yeah, but I didn't hear it because you were talking at the same time that he said it.
I was just saying the war on terror is really just ending. So we are going to be getting a lot of info over the next couple years, especially after that withdrawal. So we'll see how that actually turns out.
Yeah, I feel like you I feel
Absolutely.
like the pressure gets a lot more when you find out that you lost. You know what I'm saying? Like
Oh,
when you
absolutely.
win, you're like, yeah, I won, bitch. Like, like you're not even thinking about mental health or TBIs. But when you lose, you got all that time to dwell. Like, man, I fucking spent 13 months of my life in combat and we
For
lost.
what? For what?
Like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna weigh heavy on their hearts, kind of like the Vietnam vets,
Yep.
I think it's
Now I know how they feel. And I feel bad for calling them all losers. I used to just be like, man, you're a Vietnam vet. Like, cool. You lost a war. Shut the fuck up. But now I'm sitting in the same shoes they are. And I feel just as bad. Now I've lost one. Maybe it's karma. I can't even eat free Applebee's because I feel so bad about losing that war.
I better not ever see you in a OEF hat.
Ever. You won't.
I would never wear those hats. They're so
I
cringy.
know. If we won, I would wear. It's like wearing a Dallas
Even if we
Cowboys hat.
won, I wouldn't win. I wouldn't wear those.
It's like wearing a Dallas Cowboys hat. Like, great, you root for a losing team consistently. Awesome.
Sorry, Andrea.
That's fucked up. I know. I wouldn't say that to I wouldn't say that to a Vietnam vet. I don't even say it to a lot of Iraqi vets. A lot of Iraq and Afghan vets get real pissed when you say it too. But I am an Afghan vet, so it's like I'm like a black person saying the N-word. I can say it because I'm black. I mean, I'm a veteran, so I can say it. 'Cause I'm a veteran. You know what I'm trying to say there.
Got them N-word passes on the low for anybody that don't want them.
Michael Hendricks just said that Andrea's internet is built back better. I think that's amazing.
Damn.
All right. So so we were touching on the most prevalent time of year for suicides, and I saw Drew mention it in the comments, and he was right. It's the misconception is winter. Now, holidays and wintertime do cause a lot of depression rates to spike. That's not synonymous with suicide rates. So suicide rates actually spike more in late spring and early summer, and there's a really good reason for this. A couple of them actually. When you think of late spring and early summer, we have longer days, we have more sunshine, we have just kind of innately a hopefulness, like a something you're looking forward to. So when you have nothing to look forward to, or things are continually getting worse, it almost exacerbates what's bad, because now everyone else is getting outside and doing things and being happy to sunshine and do yard work, whatever, all the things and just that notion that comes with the summer approaching. And when you're already in that state of hopelessness, it's compounded at that time. And so that's very interesting part of that study, and it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Separately, if you know anything about someone who maybe this wasn't the suicide that took you by surprise, but someone who has been depressed, someone who maybe has had some ideations over time, or maybe some self-harm and not really gone through with anything yet. Often what happens is you see this pattern of depression, and then they may crawl out of it and feel happy and better. So to be fair, the scariest part of that when someone has a known depressive disorder is actually when they start to appear better. When someone starts to seem more alert, more energetic, this is when actually you need to put even more eyes on them. Because if someone has this deep, dark, depressive thoughts,
because
and
then when they're like
for
super
sure has
depressed,
had thoughts of suicidal.
when they're super depressed and you're trying to find them help and you're like, oh dude, you gotta go. Now it's like, okay, now I'm better and you're still trying to find me help. Like that sounds fucked.
Well, it's so crazy that you say that because all my family members tell me about my mother.
But let
Like,
me
there's no way your mother did this to herself because your mom, she was getting her life together. She was going to school and she seemed happy and, she was doing all this and that and just overly, just completely happy and a different person. And then all of a sudden hits the wall. That makes sense. I mean,
do you think there was any
so
stopping your mom at
and
that
the
point?
reason it makes
no.
And that's always kind of like the question I've had with suicide. And listen, like suicide's very close to me, dude. Like my uncle committed suicide. The neighbor that lives behind me committed suicide. The kid who I went home with every day after school until my mom got home, killed himself in his backyard. My mother found him. The neighbor that lives in front of our house was a murder suicide. So I grew up with seeing lots and lots of suicides over the years. I always had lots of questions about them, but I kind of feel like if somebody's going to commit suicide, what is there to do to stop them? What can you? I mean, we had a friend that we even Baker acted. It didn't work. Still fucking kill. And I'm not saying you just give up and you stop trying, but I mean, you can't really beat yourself over the head when somebody close to you commits suicide, because I think a lot of these times, man, I mean, they're gonna hide it until it's too late.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you just can't control it. All you can do is be a helping hand to somebody. Just offer the help. It's up to them to take it or not. Like my mother,
Right.
I don't think there's nothing I could have done or said to change my mother's mind. That's why I don't lose sleep over, because like, man, my mom had a lot of trauma from her childhood growing up being dark skinned in Mississippi. And there's sexual trauma and stuff that happened to her that she carried her entire life. And that compounded with domestic violence didn't make it any better.
Yeah.
So let me ask. So two things real quick. Sorry, if I'm interrupting, I'm not trying to, but it's hard to tell with
No, you're
the
fine.
lag. What I was just gonna finish with on that a minute ago about when people seem to be healthier and seem to be doing better. The reason is because they quite literally physically have more energy. A lot of times it amounts to not a whole lot more than that. They seem to be doing better. Now they have the energy to enact the plan that they've been planning the whole time they were not feeling well. So they've been sitting there thinking about it when they were depressed, when they were lethargic, when they were, had taken to the bed, when they didn't want to be involved in family activities. They've been planning this. That it so often happens with a plan in place. And it may not be tomorrow, it could be 6 months. But sometimes it literally just takes that. It takes the energy when this depressive cycle lets up a little bit, and they physically have energy to get up. So to the surrounding family members and friends, that appears as a positive note. When in reality, they literally now have the energy to execute the plan. There's that. I was going to ask you, Dexter, when you said that about your mother's childhood, and we don't even have to get into we don't have to get into the weeds of whatever her childhood was, but based on past traumas in her childhood, do you feel like that steered her in a direction to be with a man that your father was to her?
Honestly, I can't say. I don't know. I really don't know. But I just know,
Yeah.
it was like I said, she carried a lot of trauma for years, and the thing is, she passed some of that trauma on to me. With one thing I talk about in my book is growing up being dark skinned and being made fun of by the black kids for being dark skinned. Well, my mom bleached her skin when she was younger to make herself appear lighter, so she could be more socially accepted. And she taught me how to bleach my skin when I was in middle school because I was getting made fun of by other black kids for being so dark skinned, thinking that that was going to make my life better. And of course, a lot of people, man, that's jacked up. It is, but you got to understand, she wasn't doing that from a place of harm. She really thought she was trying to help me. And, because she felt like it helped her.
Right.
And of course, looking back, yeah, it's wrong. And, but like I said, she did it out of love, not hate. But, that's one thing I've had to learn to teach myself over the years, to love myself. Even though I have dark skin, like, who cares at this point? I don't care. It's just who I am. I make sure I tell my daughter that every day. She's got dark skin. I'm like, you're beautiful, baby. because that wasn't drummed into my head. I would put on dark skin clothes and I would be told, you're already black enough. Why would you go outside with no darker clothes on? You know, and that's, like I said, that's a lot of trauma that happens in the black community. A lot of people don't want to talk about, but that's why I'm so open about it, man. Colorism, it's a real thing, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's a crazy.
Well, that was loud.
Got her fucking technical issues. Waiting on you. Usually I'm the one that ruins the flow of a show. Not tonight. Not tonight. It gets serious. It gets good.
We should look good.
Fucking 45-second delay. Is there a hurricane going on?
I mean,
something.
You know, don't you worry about that.
Smell the mic.
I was gonna say. First of all, Dunlap just said that he's Irish, and if he bleached his skin, he'd be transparent. I remember on the color issue, Dexter, when I was in middle school and a bunch of my buddies, and one of them, this guy named Brent. What's up, Brent? This guy named Brent was darker skinned than his other buddies in the little circle that he ran in. And I remember, and everybody would just giggle, but they would talk it amongst themselves about Brent being darker, like what you're talking here. They were actually all pretty creative with it. They were all a lot of fun, but it's the same, it's the same idea as when you talk about past traumas, it's whenever any parent, like if a parent has had weight issues and they're consistently saying things like, oh, I've eaten one pancake, I'm not going to have more gain, whatever. The things that we just they're hearing and they're going to take and run with it. But I think that let me see if we took all of our notes. One of the things that we talked about earlier was how excuse me, if you are a first responder and you've been on a call of someone who's attempting suicide, then that makes you more likely to potentially have suicidal. Do you find in your experience as a police officer, people who are calling in or someone calling in for them that are side or someone's going to attempt it, instead of because they're going to execute on that plan, maybe it's to receive mental health care?
So we actually just dealt with that. So it was in the summer. We had a lady, an older black lady downtown, and her family called like, hey, she's about to kill herself. So we get on scene and we knock on the door. She was like, I got a gun and I got lots of ammo in here. It's like, y'all come in here, we're going to shoot it out. And I'm like, well, we're not going inside. So, we pull back, set up a perimeter. And so we're just trying to talk the lady to coming out and getting help. And we're out there forever. And there's literally, command, we make the decision, like we take these factors into account. Like, is she going to be a danger to somebody else right now if we leave? So we ended up leaving, and we gave the family mental health resources. We slid a number under the door for some more mental health stuff. And then we just leave. And people were mad. Why are you leaving? Like, we can't do anything. She's not hurting us. If we go in there, she's going to force us to kill herself. And so the family's like, she's been struggling with mental health for years. Well, I get a text last week that, hey, remember that lady from the summer? Like, yeah, she finally shot and killed herself. And she, like I said, she was going to do it one way or another, and she did it,
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad she did it without taking any cops with her or making a cop have to do it. Like, I always hate that suicide by cop thing. It's like, dude, fucking do it yourself. Don't make a cop do it.
Don't
make a cop do it for you. So he has to live with that shit, and then compiles trauma. But seeing a lot of suicides, and we work a bunch of them. I don't know that it's ever made me want to contemplate suicide. But,
no, definitely.
I mean, there is science behind that. I mean, it's like, if they talk about mass shootings a bunch, you're going to have more mass shootings because it puts ideals and it puts thoughts into somebody's head. If they're already thinking about it, it's like subliminal advertising, right? If I keep saying ghost bed over and over again, eventually when it comes time for you to buy a bed, first thing you're going to think about is ghost bed. First time you buy ammo, you're going to think of ammo seek. You know what I mean? Like those, it's subliminal messaging and hitting somebody almost like hypnotically, where you're saying the same thing over and over again. There's a science to it. So if you hear mass shooting on every channel of every news thing, guess what's going to go up? Mass shootings. Because then it normalizes it. If you put gay in every single fucking movie and every fucking other scene, guess what? You're going to get a lot more gay people. I know that's freaking that, you know, some I said this to a group of people and they were really offended by it. I said that and they're like, oh, it's not that easy. I mean, it is, man. Like my children would never ever even know what gay is. They wouldn't even know what two dudes could love each other had they not even seen it on a fucking cartoon that they just watched, which they're now not allowed to watch. But my son just the other day asked me again if something was gay. And I was like, dude, you're 9 and you're homeschooled. The thing is that they're subliminally pounding us over the head, pounding us in the ass with this whole gay thing over and over again. It's like every fucking TV show that you watch has gay undertones. Every one of them. I mean, White Lotus, gays.
Bro, there's $18.99 on Netflix.
Gays.
Bro, I was just like, oh, I wasn't expecting that.
You know, you got it's just everything that you do, like the Game of Thrones, the new what's the Lord of the Rings spinoff? I mean, does everything have to be gay? Like it's crazy to me. And yeah, you know,
subliminal messaging. I mean, you were talking about
it
that
over and over again. You're going to get a lot more of that shit. So if you go to a lot more suicides, yeah, you're probably going to think of suicide a little bit more if that's a thought that's down in the depths of your soul.
Speaking
Say again,
Speaking of subliminal messages, do you think you could, speaking of subliminal messages, if you play our podcast backward, does it like ghost bed, ammo seek, manscape, like all of our ads? Okay, it doesn't give you all of our ad reads.
Oh, it does. Yeah, if you play it backwards, it gives you,
I think it should.
It gives you it gives you the meaning of life, really. It lets you know what the meaning of life if you play the podcast backwards. You have to do it the whole way, and then you have to leave a rating and review. You have to subscribe, and then you have to follow on Instagram. You also have to follow I Am Pitts. He has a wonderful podcast that he updates very consistently. His podcast is, I mean, it rolls out like a, I'm just kidding. That shit's
I love it,
though. I love your podcast.
I appreciate it, man.
And you know, that's where you can follow him and read the book. I Am Pitts, a great Amazon seller. If you're a family member of a first responder, if you're a fan of first responder, if you love first responders, if you want to support a first responder, head over to Amazon.com and look up I Am Pitts. That's IAMPITTS, and you can get his book. And you can read this whole story, the story about Iraq, the war, being a police officer in the time of the Breonna Taylor incident, being a police officer in a time when the borders are wide open and he became a border patrol agent, to kind of where he is now and how he found himself being Dexter Pitts. And I think it's such a powerful story, you know, not being able to relate to white people, then to not being able to relate to black people, then to not be able to relate to people on the border, and just having a real identity crisis of who the fuck am I? Am I a black Democrat soldier? Am I am I a white wannabe Republican police officer? Like, who the fuck am I? And he comes to this realization that I am Pitts. I am something that there's nothing else. There's nobody else out there like me. I am who I am, and I'm just different.
Give me chills. Oh shit.
I mean, dude, that's what I got from the book. You know what I mean? You came to the realization of everything that you were, and that's a powerful statement, man. And I love it. And I encourage anybody to read the book. Matter of fact, I thought it was so powerful that I gave my copy, my first copy, to a woman on an airplane, who was real pro police. No,
I'm sure that white liberal, I'm sure she probably committed suicide after that book.
Well, the funny thing is that your book has a picture of you with a mask and a thin blue line, and she was so disgusted by it. And she's like, "Oh gosh, that book looks toxic." And
such an Uncle Tom.
And I looked over and I was like, "Oh no, this is about a black man that's having to be a police officer in white America." And she was like, "Oh God, I can't even imagine." how did he fall into that? And I was like, well, he went to war and he like literally wasn't qualified to do anything else but be a cop. And now he's, now he's just forced to be a cop. For all
Pretty
these white
much.
people. And she was like, that sounds good. She's probably
I
dead.
like to see him at my house in a tuxedo with some white gloves. But he serves one nicely.
Also, you can. 10 seconds later, she gets it. Also, there was a really great episode that we posted when we were with One More and I'm Out of Here podcast, where we got to meet with Dexter Pitts and Lieutenant Colonel Scheller. And you can listen to both those shows, one on One More and I'm Out of Here podcast. And then the night before that, you can hear that episode on the last call episode.
That got wild.
But, if you're thinking about committing suicide, reach out. Okay. Reach out to somebody.
Call.
Even if
Pronouns.
Go ahead.
Pitts.
Call Dexter Pitts.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say 800-273-273-825, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. However, they now have enacted if you type in 988, you know how there are sometimes like 3 numbered things for like if you dig in your area and you call this little number to make sure you're not going to dig up a line or whatever. So 988, I think it was on maybe a story or a reel I did recently, but you can call that anywhere in the United States. I forget how many, there's 100 and something languages you can call and converse in. Of course, says 911. Absolutely. I'm seeing more for 988. Hey, Hydra Man.
Don't call if you're in Canada. Don't call if you're in Canada.
Yeah, because they'll just euthanize you. They'll be like, come on down. We're offering suicides half off for our spring rush sale. All suicides 20% off. Free euthanizations. Actually, they call it euthanizations. They don't call it suicides. But what if I want to commit suicide in Klingon? There's 100 different languages. Is Klingon one of those languages?
Yes.
Asking for a friend.
The delay.
All right. Well,
I know.
I am done because this fucking delay is killing me. And plus my ride is here. Broke arm.
And I have to go actually work on the night shift after doing the night shift show. But thank God it's my Friday.
And if you want to commit
you
suicide,
do.
No.
Yes.
Well, that was bad timing. So if you want to commit suicide, she said, yeah, you do.
Well,
yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You want to do it, don't you? If you commit suicide, I'll show you my tits. And until next time, guys, guns up, giddy up.